Cathy. I wanted to talk this week about my heart chakra crying. I mentioned, I think in the last video blog when I was talking about the Hey House I Can Do It conference, that I cry when my heart chakra opens, and it occurred to me that you might not know what I'm talking about. So I wanted to give a little backstory about how I hate crying. And I actually remembered when this heart chakra crying started. After I did that last video, I was thinking about like, where did this come from? And I actually remembered where it started. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. And this whole video is really to encourage you to notice when your heart chakra is open, when you're receptive, when you're in a moment of joy and inspiration. And for me, it's actually something that I feel in my body and it makes me cry. And I don't know why that is. And I don't really know how to explain how it's different than if I watch a sad movie or if I get personal news that's emotional, or like it definitely feels different, but I can't really explain how it's different. So if I watch a sad movie, it's affecting me, like it's touching my heart, and it's making me feel compassion and empathy, and that, you're crying because someone had to go through whatever in the movie is sad. Sorry, my dog's barking. Quit. Hey. Sorry, let me just kick him out of the room first. Sorry. Yeah, so sad movie crying feels different in my body. Like I don't know, it's an unpleasant crying. Like there's an unpleasantness there. Or if I get news that's sad, that's unpleasant, and it's probably to do with compassion and empathy. Or if, I don't know, even if I got great personal news about a friend, recovering from something, like you might cry, and it's touching you, and it's about compassion, but that's gladness, but it's different. So the heart chakra crying, for me, it's like I feel it. I feel it in my heart chakra. It's something about something touching me, something inspiring me, something opening me to, I don't even know what it is. Like it's some kind of a divine experience, or like a glimpse of something bigger, maybe. And I'm a writer, so it's extremely frustrating for me to not be able to explain how something feels with words, because I'm a writer and I use lots of words. So to not be able to find words is frustrating. But I mean, it's not something to do with the brain, so it's hard to explain it. But the heart chakra crying. So first, I hate crying. I have resisted crying for as long as I can remember. Like some women cry at the drop of a hat. I am not one of those women. I kind of resent crying. I get angry when something makes me cry, whether it's a sad movie. Like if I watch, Schindler's List, like obviously that's going to make me cry. And I kind of resent Steven Spielberg for making me cry at Schindler's List. Because it's an intimate thing, and it's like their artistry, and I mean, I know it's based on a true story, but they are, reenacting and fictionalizing something that happened. And intellectually, I can say, well, Liam Neeson isn't, being in pain. These other people aren't physically in pain at this moment. But I resent that they can make me cry by reenacting something, I think. So I hate crying at sad movies. If I'm going through something personally that makes me cry, I get mad at the person for making me cry, for triggering that in me, because it's not something I can control. So I resent that, the intimate action of causing me to cry. I resent when someone can trigger that, because it's something that I can't control, and so it's someone has that control over me, I think. That's what makes me angry, and that's what I resent. So that's just the foundation of how I hate crying. Then the story of how this heart chakra crying began. Actually, I have to do another little foundation piece there. My parents, I think, would call themselves atheists, but they didn't teach my sister and me to be atheists. We just had nothing. And they didn't say anything really about religion. That we had friends who, would go to church or go to these church-sponsored events, and it was just like, they follow X, we don't follow that. It wasn't that we follow something else. Like, it really was nothing. Like, just nothing. So, growing up, I didn't have any personal relationship with any kind of religion or any kind of religious philosophy. Like, I was aware of different Bible stories just from common knowledge that you hear about the Noah and the ark, and you hear about, whoever else. Like, I'm culturally aware of those things, but I was never instructed in any of that because I wasn't raised to be Christian. But then also culturally, I was aware of things like the Salem witch trials and other reasons why I was uncomfortable with institutionalized religion, of how religion A is against B, and that makes B bad. And so religion A persecutes B, blah, 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 blah. So I didn't specifically, like, I don't think I have prejudices against certain religions, but I'm aware that certain religions do things that I don't agree with. So typically, if I'm on vacation say I went to the Sistine Chapel, that was interesting to me from an art perspective, but it was uncomfortable for me from a religious perspective, just because it's religion. And being raised without anything, I sort of cobbled together my own spirituality. So I identify with some pagan things. I'm interested in Wicca things. And so especially that kind of stuff, knowing that certain religions were trying to convert pagans and persecute witches and blah, 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 I've just felt that certain religions wouldn't embrace me wholeheartedly. So when I'm in some kind of a temple or something, I'm not exactly comfortable. Even if I'm just there for a friend or family member's wedding, I'm always a little bit uncomfortable being in any kind of a church or religious blah, blah, blah. Any kind of a structure representing some kind of organized religion, I've typically been uncomfortable. So go back a couple of years, maybe 4 years now. I live near Denver, Colorado, and there's this little Buddhist monastery called the Compassionate Dharma Cloud Monastery in the hills on the way up to the mountains. And they do a monthly mindfulness day where it's meditation, a little walking, a little lunch, more meditation. And I'd been studying some Buddhist things and trying to build a meditation practice, and I thought that would be a really good step to go to this little monastery and learn in person and have, meditation instruction in person. I thought that would be really nice. So my boyfriend and I at the time went up there, and I was expecting it to look more like a stereotypical monastery, like an old brick building with these hallways and everyone walks in slippers, and it wasn't at all like that. It was basically a house, a little house where a couple of monks live, and so that makes it a monastery. But they had this, like, the living room in the house had no furniture in it. It had a big stage where there was a huge Buddha sculpture, and then a Kuan Yin, and then I forget what the third one was, whether it was another Buddha or a different Kuan Yin. And it had these beautiful flowers and incense burners and flags and all. It was just really beautifully decorated, and then just an open carpet where we would sit with our meditation cushions. And walking into this living room with this, I mean, it's a religious room. It has these religious statues and this aura about it. Everybody speaks quietly. That was the first place that was like a religious structure that I didn't feel uncomfortable. Like I actually felt really open, really curious, really welcomed, really accepted. And I'm going to get a clump talking about it. So that was the physical structure of the mindfulness day. And then we would take a little walk, and then we would come back and sit for lunch outside and come back. This was the environment for the mindfulness day. Then the people there were all, some of them were Buddhists, some of them were monks, some of them were just wanting to try it out for meditation instruction, some of them came every month, but everybody was really warm and really just witnessing you and welcoming you and not at all judging. And I'm not saying that other religious groups aren't like that. I think they are. But for me, this is the first time that I resonated with anything resembling religion, where I felt accepted and welcomed for who I am and not just the old, love everyone, blah, blah, blah. Like I felt like they were glad that I was there. So it was a little bit of an emotional day, and, you sit in meditation. There were like 3 or 4 different, like hour-long meditation sessions, and then some walking meditation and lunch. And then there was a Dharma lesson where the head monk gave a little talk about, I don't even remember what the topic was, but he talked about some facet in Buddhist philosophy. And then at the end of the day, we had Dharma sharing, where we all sat in a circle and people just took turns saying whatever was on their mind, whatever they wanted to share, a question they had or an experience they had. And the monk was sitting over here, and then we went around the circle this way. So I was near the end. There were maybe 3 other people after me around the circle. And they got to me, and I didn't know what I was going to say, but I wanted to express how glad I was to be there and how welcomed I felt and how comfortable I felt. But when they got to me, I opened my mouth and I just started to bawl, just total breakdown, just crying and crying. And my boyfriend at the time put his arm around me, and everybody was just like holding space for me to just sit there and cry. And I felt kind of stupid, but at the same time I felt that they didn't think I was stupid. That they were just holding space for me to be emotional and to be in the moment, and it was an emotional moment for me. So that was the first time I had this heart chakra crying. And then slowly I've been able to just witness it. So when something opens my heart chakra, I notice that something in my chest is opening. I notice the tears coming to my eyes. And my first impulse is to kind of roll my eyes. I'm like, oh, here comes the heart chakra crying. But then I'm learning to just sit with it and let it happen naturally. And I still feel a little silly about it, but it's, like I was saying earlier, it's not like sad movie crying. It's, when I'm doing the heart chakra crying, there's an openness, there's a lightness, and it's not about pain, even if there is like healing happening. I don't have words to explain it. But I wanted to give you a little background about what the heart chakra crying is, since I mentioned it last time, where I noticed it came from. And I'm really curious to know if you've made it this far in the video, if this happens to anybody else, or is it just me? Or if there's something else that happens to you, like maybe, I don't even know what other options there could be, but when something touches you deeply on like a spiritual level, where you're feeling open and receptive to whatever divine energies in the universe, like how how does that happen for you? How does that experience feel for you? Is it like in your body, or is it like you feel like a vibration in another dimension? Or for me, I just start blubbering. And as someone who really resists crying, I guess that's fitting. I've thought off and on for at least a year now of trying to cultivate a crying practice, just to give myself space to process it and to get used to crying as a natural physical process, and to get rid of some of my resentment and anger about being triggered to cry. But I have so much else going on that I'm like, I'll do that later. So I resist crying. Divine experiences trigger crying, but I don't resent it the way that I resent people or things in my life that trigger me to cry, like more, I don't know, human interactions that make me cry. I still kind of resent those, but the divine experiences that are making me cry, or the inspirational experiences that are making me cry, I'm learning to soften to those. So I guess it's just a process, and eventually I'll get used to the divine crying, and then maybe I'll get used to the regular human crying. And this video turned out to be a lot longer than I planned for, so I appreciate you listening, and I hope I didn't make you cry. But I wanted to just talk about it and put it out there that, yeah, I cry when my heart chakra opens, and that's definitely something weird. It's a little bit weird for me to say, but it's normalizing for me because it happens not often, but it's happened enough that I'm like, oh yeah, it's the heart chakra crying. So I'm just putting it out there to see in internet land if anybody else goes through something similar or something parallel. If you have sort of a divine experience that's different, but at the same time the same, you know what I mean. So that's the story of my heart chakra crying, and maybe one day I'll figure out a personal crying practice, and then maybe I'll have a class or something about it, because I think that might be helpful. I think I am in the minority of women who don't like to cry or have difficulty crying or resistance to crying. I think most women are more emotional than I am, and so crying comes more easily to them. So maybe a crying class would only help a small portion of people, but I find it very interesting, and it's a curious, psychological phenomenon. So anyway, now I'm just rambling at this point, so I will wrap up the video, and thank you for watching. Thank you for holding space for me while I'm crying about my previous experience of people holding space for me while I was crying. And now I'm, in a good mood. I feel fine, and I need to wipe my face a little bit more, but I'm in a good mood, and I hope you are too. I hope you have a great day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Thanks, bye.